Hey, Stansel team. I'm Jim Flynn, our safety manager, and today we're going to be diving into blueprints as far as best practices for utilizing them and reading them. And to help us do that today, we've got two great experts, area supervisors Jeff Black and Alan Bradford. Thank you guys for joining us.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Awesome. Are you guys ready to dive right into it?
Ready?
All right, great. Help us out and guide this discussion. I've got a series of questions for you. First off, what are the fundamental elements you always look for on a blueprint to get an initial understanding of the project?
Front page. It's going to have a scope there and what's going on. It's going to have where the site is, everything. You have to read that to know where you're going and what you're doing.
I concur. The index and the glossary that's on the front page of every single set of drawings.
Okay, that's simple. All right. If it was only that simple. Second question, this podcast is not just for our superintendents. There's going to be people from the company watching that maybe aren't intimately familiar with blueprints. So with that said, can you explain the difference in some of the things like, for example, line types, where there's solid lines, dashed lines, center lines, hidden lines, and those types of things, what they represent?
I'm going to make a suggestion. Let's start with the index and go through that because there's different pages in there and you need to understand what those pages are showing you. And that's that's the information you need to know before you dive into the details of the plans themselves.
And the glossary will push you to each and every segment. All segments, whether electrical, architectural, structural, they all have details. They all have wall legends. They have door schedules. Those are the areas that you're going to find what you're looking for.
So is it safe to say that in different sets of blueprints, different things can mean some of the same things can mean different things in a different set of blueprints? Does that happen sometimes?
Generally speaking, blueprints are going to be page by page. The basics are going to be somewhat similar from one architect to the other, but some of the details on what they're highlighting or maybe trying to explain can vary. But going in under that, what's the next thing after the front page that you're going to look at?
Demo. Then you'll probably move on into architectural. Then you'll move on into structural. Then you'll have your MEPs, your mechanical, your electrical, your plumbing, and so forth.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
And if you go into usually either at the beginning of the architectural, sometimes you'll have plans that are combined with civil and architectural. Sometimes they're separate. But in the architectural, you're going to have your general conditions right up front, and that's a good place to go through and highlight. Things like that are going to tell you, do you have a third-party inspection that's required? Those are the things that you're going to see, and it's broken up into the different divisions. So you're going to have division by division, division 1, division 2, et cetera, et cetera. So you got to start with that to see what's applicable to what you're trying to do and have an understanding of that.
All right.
We also, you'll find that a lot of our projects have multiple sets, referring to what Jeff's talking about, of plans. You'll have your basic plans for architectural and structural for the actual job. You'll also have a set of civil drawings for any work that's done outside of the project. There's also, some of our clients also provide decor plans. And deciphering what goes first is another part of understanding blueprints. Structural always overrides architectural. Decor drawings always override architectural when it comes to furniture layout and things of that nature. Civil stands alone by itself. It explains everything that goes on outside of that. Grades, pavement, curb and gutter, ADA ramps, so forth, so on.
Wow. All right. Thank you for the fantastic insight. How do our superintendents ensure that they're using the correct scale when interpreting blueprints, and what potential issues can arise if the scale is misread?
Number one, scale of a drawing on each page generally has a scale for those drawings.
Down in the title block.
Where there's details, down on the bottom left-hand corner, down the bottom right-hand corner, but there is a scale on there. However, be leery of scaling plans. Plans can be copied and sent to you, and if that copy is downsized any or upsized any, that scale is no longer effective. Scaling is something that I would do at the last resort. Go by what drawings dimensions that are given there. If the dimension's not given, make sure that you're on the original sized drawings. That's the only way the scale is going to work for you.
Okay.
Any
Yeah,
insight to that?
Yeah,
that
you have different layouts. You have architectural A, B, C, D, E, etc. And those plans, that scale is geared towards a specific architectural size. And if you come out with a like maybe a 12 by 18 instead, it's the same plan that's shrunk down. You cannot scale that at all. Just forget about that. And then you need to pay attention if is it whether it is civil or architectural and structural. Architectural and structural are typically going to be your architectural scale, which is measured in twelfths, whereas a civil plan is always going to be in tenths. And if you misinterpret that and use the wrong scale, you're going to come up with the wrong dimensions every single time. So you have to pay attention. Every superintendent should have both scales, architectural and civil.
Okay. Great to know. Great insight. How does the superintendent, or I should say, how does the superintendent effectively utilize the legend and notes section on a blueprint?
Go back to the glossary. Each of those pages that you go to, if you're looking up an architectural issue, go to that architectural sheet. You'll start at A1 and then work your way to the details. Those details will explain. The biggest key, read the notes. Don't just look at it, the detail, and see that it's a 2 foot wide by 1 foot footing. It's going to have details of what size the rebar is, the spacing between, any stirrups or anything that's done. Details are very important when you're looking at drawings.
Yeah, Alan brings up a good point. One thing that can change and the details will be in your general conditions typically. Wind loads are really critical. So if you're building in one part of the country and then you're building in Florida, you're going to see a difference in bar laps. And the plans are going to tell you that. You may have a bar lap of 60 times the bar diameter and sometimes even 85 times the bar diameter. And then you go up somewhere, North Dakota, wherever, where wind is not as critical, it may only be 40 times the bar diameter. But you have to read through those general conditions because that's going to be spelled out in there somewhere, not necessarily on the structural page, which will give you footing sizes, things like that. But those really important details, go back to the general conditions and it'll be in there.
The final statement on that is never assume. Always read and verify.
We know what happens there, right?
Yes, we do.
And construction and everywhere else. You oftentimes see blueprints that are marked by the superintendent with different color highlighters, for example. Is there a best practices for that? Like, should yellow be used for X and blue for Y, or is that subjective for the super?
It's subjective for the super. The critical thing is that they've gone through and they've highlighted the details to make it easy to find it in the field.
I go back to the glossary and the index. If you're using highlighters, make yourself an index. Yellow equals, orange equals, red equals, blue equals. That way you have an immediate glossary that you've created that shows you where I'm going to. This is all blue. Well, that's my walls. So forth and so on. Create your own legend there. Create your own glossary with that. Doesn't matter what color you use. If you want to use pink with yellow polka dots, it equals something.
Right.
But put down what it does equal so that you know.
And that's advantageous not only for the superintendent's own recollection, but for you guys especially. You walk on the job, now there's no misinterpretation, right? I know what yellow means. I know what blue means.
And a trade partner gets to see that as well,
Right.
which is very critical.
Everybody's on the same page.
That everybody's on the same page. That's correct.
Yeah, what I would consider a best practice is you're going to go to every page. You may not have the same information and color scheme for every page, but if you go to like a structural page, you're going to have a layout of the building. It's going to show your footing changes, F1, F2 for column pads, whatever. You're going to have a schedule down here that's going to show what that is. So if you go down to the schedule, F1 is blue. Come up here, mark the F1s so you can find them easy and you can cross-reference, quick reference. You don't spend time, you're not wasting time trying to redo or maybe figure out because you haven't done it to begin with, and it makes everything faster for anyone else on the job site. So you can do that, what Alan's talking about, with the schedule and then on the building layout itself.
And like Jeff said, best practice is use that legend. Make the legend for yourself because, refer back to what Jeff said, it's quick reference. You know what's going on. You can go to it instantly and you don't have to go through 5 or 6 pages of details to try to find the note that you read 2 weeks ago
Yeah.
about it. It's a quick reference. Boom, I'm there. This is it. It's blue, structural F1, done.
Excellent. Along the same lines, I was on a project with you actually, Alan, and the other day, and it was Randall Hendricks' project. And not only was it marked up with highlighter and notes, but I couldn't help but notice there were also tabs utilized at the bottom. And from my ignorant perception, this struck me as very organized, and also just somebody who had clearly combed through the blueprints in detail. Is that the impression? Is that a fair takeaway for myself? And what else? Why else would a superintendent go to that extent to try to get those labeled?
You're exactly right.
Okay.
He has gone through those drawings. He has made notes in those drawings. He's gone through them and he's tabbed those drawings according to his scheduling and his sequencing.
Mm.
So he's able to pull from that. Again, Jeff shows up, I show up, another areas guy shows up, wants to do that. He can walk to that plan and pull that sequence right away. There it is. This is what we're talking about. And if there's no answer for that, then you go into the RFI process.
Mm-hmm.
But this is an instant way to go through it. It just shows that he has gone through his plans, questioned things, put tabs in there to quick reference with.
Yeah.
So-
When you walk onto a job site and a superintendent has tabbed and highlighted and annotated his plans, you're not questioning in your mind whether he knows what's going on,
Good point.
because it's a visual representation that he's done the pre-planning to ensure that his project goes smoothly. It doesn't matter if you tab your plans up here, over here, down here. That's not important. The thing is, you have that tab on there, and as everybody knows, when plans get dog worn, it takes longer to flip through and find things. But if you got a tab on it, boom, you're right there. Structural, architectural, roof details, whatever it might be, however works for you, that shows that you have gone through the plans. And it's just a huge benefit on the plan, on the job site.
Awesome.
I want to point out that it doesn't have to be tabs.
Okay.
We talked about sticky notes before.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We talked just recently, seconds ago, about creating your own glossary with highlighters.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what you use, but do something that gives you that quick reference. Run through your plans. Like Jeff said, this person has engaged himself in the plans. He understands what he's looking for. He's got quick references to everything. When these questions are brought up to him out in the field, he doesn't have to spend 35 minutes. He spends 2 minutes, gets the detail, shows it to his trade partner. Trade partner gets the work done. It's a time-saving tool as well.
Absolutely.
Plus, you know your job so much better
Mm-hmm.
when you've read through it before you even start.
Right. And if our perception, like Jeff had said, you walk on and now you're not asking about questions as far as what does this person know and not know, I got to imagine this means something to an inspector too. When they walk up and see that you have your blueprints in that kind of organization and order.
It's a huge difference.
Not to mention an owner or an
Yeah.
owner rep.
Right.
It tells them the same thing. This guy's organized. He's got me down. I'm number one focus.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How do you incorporate feedback and revisions into your blueprint interpretation process during a project's lifestyle?
You want to go there?
That's always a challenge because we do revisions, we have plan corrections come out, that sort of stuff. Ideally, we would be able to get those pages printed out and then implement them in the plans. That's not always practical or timely just because of the workflow on the job site, but we need to have some way to do it. Procore, I think our project managers do a pretty good project managers and project coordinators do a pretty good job of keeping those up to date. And I know when you go to Procore and if you're on a set of plans or a page that is not updated, it tells you that it is not the latest revision. So you can always reference back to Procore for those revisions.
Also understand that it is a revision, that you're not the only person that needs to know about this revision. You have trade partners out there that this affects. That trade partner in real time needs to get that revision as quick as you get that revision. Otherwise, we're laying block on the wrong side of a line, so to speak. We don't want that to happen. So the quicker we get the revision to our trade partner and understand it and verify this revision, the better off we all are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just another, speaking on that, another best practices is when your subcontractor shows up on the job site with their set of plans, you need to cross-reference those pages with what the latest revisions are and make sure that they're working off the latest revisions.
Correct.
Good tip.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. How should we handle situations where blueprints are incomplete, unclear, or conflict with site conditions?
Going to go back to what Jeff just said about the revisions. First thing I would you want to do when you get your drawings, check every one of your trade partners' drawings. Make sure that they are looking at and have the same drawings that you're building off of. That we're all building off the same plan.
Mm-hmm.
Revision dates match. Issue dates match. Make sure that that plan is the plan that the building department is inspecting off of. If those differ from each other, it's going to create a world of problems for us down the road. Asking for revisions, asking for letters from architects, asking letters from engineers to explain why this is not on the drawings. These revisions delay the job drastically. You're in the middle of a job, you get a revision, and this guy hasn't been working on the same plan and you haven't verified that. He could be 100 feet of walls into the job, and all of a sudden now you got this revision that you haven't spoke to anyone about, or you're working on the wrong set of plans. So that's the key. In the very beginning, verify everybody has the same thing. We all got to be on the same page. If we're not, somebody's writing VM, the other guy's writing the glossary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you look at the custody chain from the customer to the project manager, through the architect, to the vendor, to the guy, foreman in the field with the set of plans, that's a fairly long custody chain, and those plans don't necessarily seep all the way down to the guy in the field. That's why it's really critical to make sure they have the latest revision that they're working off of.
Great points. So you guys are interested in the fact that when we said you're experts in the beginning of this podcast, well, I know you guys are too humble, but I mean, that's the way you're viewed here. But you did the superintendent role. You're not just in the area supervisor role. Describe your experience, whether it was your previous role or the current one, collaborating with the architects, the engineers, and construction teams based on blueprint information in general.
I would say that as the field professional, whether it's us or the superintendents, because they're field professionals, they're running the job, that coordination aspect needs to be considered, because they, more often than not, the field superintendent is the one suggesting or recommending the changes that need to be made based on field conditions. So that has to be communicated to the project manager and the architect or engineer as appropriate, so that they understand what the situation is, because everything's gearing off of whatever's happening in the field. Right. It's not happening up in the office, it's happening in the field. Mm-hmm. So there's got to be clear communication with all the appropriate parties as to what needs to happen, how it needs to be happening, and when it needs to be happening.
And who's responsible for it when it does happen.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, and I'm not an expert in this area, but I've been around you guys enough to hear the word proactive, the communication. The more proactive the super is in that communication, the less calls they're going to get, less questions, right? Less problems. So
less calls we all get.
Yeah,
less calls
we
all get. Yes.
And I want to emphasize that we, as area supervisors, we have a lot of experience. None of us are ever going to claim to know everything. But if there's ever a question about how to do something in the field, ask the question. We'd rather have that question asked than not asked, because we can provide insight, or we can help get the answer that we need to resolve whatever the concern is.
Yeah, and that's a part of our backup. So I agree with Jeff. I'm never going to claim myself or any of us as experts. Mm-hmm. I will say that we have a lot of tenure. We've got a lot of experience. The other thing is, if we can't answer you right away or show you how to find that answer, we'll go get that answer for you.
Yeah.
So the backup here at Stansel that's the greatest thing there is at this company. You can get backup no matter what. And like Jeff said, don't hesitate about a question. It's not a question of are you smart enough? Mm-hmm. Or we're never going to question your decision making. We're not going to say, well, you should have known this. Ask that question. The worst question is the one that never got asked.
Exactly.
So well said.
Yeah.
How do you handle a situation where there's a disagreement on a blueprint interpretation with a team? And I should have probably elaborated and said, let's say it's a passionate disagreement about how something is being interpreted on a blueprint. If I'm a superintendent, how should I handle that situation?
Interpretation of what's on the blueprint. I never like to use the word interpretation because it's a matter of opinion. I think interpretation is an opinion. We have building inspectors. I don't want to go off on a wild rant on building inspectors. We have building inspectors that say they follow the code, but it's the way they interpret the code. So it's their opinion. Don't want to get into that with superintendents. I don't want to get in that with owners. I don't want to get in that with anyone.
Yeah.
The plans are what we follow. Follow the plans. If there's a question, something looks totally wrong, then it probably is. Get with their project manager. Get everybody involved. Get with the area construction manager. Get everybody involved and let's talk out this issue. Okay? Interpretation by a single person can sometimes be dangerous. Interpretation by everybody involved, we're all on the same page. Everybody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think one of the distinctions that needs to be made when we start talking about opinion or interpretation, oftentimes you are inserting an emotional response to that. And we don't want to get emotional on the job sites. We want to focus on the facts. What does the code say? What is the field situation? That kind of thing. We want to keep the emotion out of it because as soon as we enter an emotion in there, very rapidly defenses can go up and that kind of thing, and we want to avoid that.
Yeah, absolutely. It goes back to our fourth pillar a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How we treat people, how we interact with people.
Exactly.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So, that decision that you make may cost the company X. The decision that everybody else made together, they share in that cost. Everybody shares in that. So that's my word on interpretation. Interpretation's it's a good word how to interpret something, but it's also a word that
It's very
needs
loaded.
to be verified.
Yeah.
It's loaded.
It's loaded.
Right.
You and I use this word all the time. Verify.
Verify. Yeah.
That means everybody involved has had their little 2 cents.
Yeah.
Let's add it up and make that dollar work. So.
When it comes to ADA, that's been a hot topic here as well, right? We're talking about blueprints, which we want to ultra focus on. ADA has been in that category too. So if I'm looking at these blueprints as a super, can I assume that everything that needed to be accounted for from an ADA standpoint is in the blueprints? Or am I going to find some things that even though it's in the blueprints, I might need to check the most current law because it actually could be a variable there?
Well, most of your drawings have ADA addressed, but usually it's a generic addressing.
Yeah.
The bathrooms, very generic. That holds true everywhere. ADA is a national code. It's not Florida. It's not Georgia. It's not South Carolina. It's a national code.
Yeah.
It is. And
That said, this is a clarification that we need to make. There is a national code. Some states have tougher standards
That's correct.
that you need
True.
to be aware of.
New York, California are two
Yeah.
of them.
Florida as well.
Texas.
Florida as well.
Yeah.
Florida requires an extra foot inside the width of a bathroom that no one else does. ADA code says 5'8" by 7'1". By 6'1".
Yeah.
Florida says 7'1".
Yeah.
So like Jeff
Yeah.
said, states can have tougher issues. But when it comes to ADA, you don't always want to use the word assume that the drawings has everything that you need to know. Here at Stancil, we've created an ADA book. We've had Anthony Connor also add to that ADA process. So all the tools are there for you. Go to the plans first, yes. If there's questions, after you look at our ADA book, after you look at those things, and you still have questions or not sure of it, reach out to your area supervisor. Reach out to your project manager. Let's get those three people involved and be sure that we're looking at ADA. Google has a lot of answers. And 9 times out of 10, Google's pretty right. We've caught a few things in there that aren't right.
Yeah.
But never assume that the drawings cover everything. Civil drawings, generally the civil guy is good enough, but they take all of those maximums and that's what they put on the drawing. So they put on a handicap ramp, they put a maximum of 8.33 for 6 feet of ramp. Well, that ramp can be 7'9" too, 7.9%.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, not 6. Anyway, that being said, you don't have to have everything to the extreme. Sidewalks have to be 2%. Cross slope, we try to set them at 1.5%, so there's not a problem that you never get. A grain of sand, a little pebble in concrete, can change up to 1%. Seen it 100 times.
Mm-hmm.
Also, make sure your smart levels are calibrated, gentlemen.
Yeah,
Make
absolutely.
sure your smart level is
Don't pull
calibrated.
your smart level out and think it's automatically
No.
calibrated. It needs to be calibrated every time you use it.
But you want to add to that about
Great
assuming
advice.
anything about ADA, really?
Yeah. There's things you need to be aware of. Just because we're not necessarily addressing something, if we do find a problem on a job site, we need to point it out so that whoever is responsible for those decisions can be made aware of it, and then they can decide how they want to handle it. But we don't want to just gloss it over and ignore it. 2% is a maximum cross slope. That doesn't mean it can't be at 1.5, 1.7, whatever. We can go 5% across the world on your running slope, but if we go over that, we cannot exceed 833, and it can only be for a set amount of space. So you need to consider what's going on the site and how to get everything in compliance with ADA.
Yeah. And at the risk of sounding redundant, I want to build on something you said a little earlier in the podcast. We think the world of our supers, right? They're out there in the trenches taking the bullets and getting these buildings upright. But I can't emphasize this enough. Stansell has a ton of resources behind the scenes available to them. And that goes for myself from safety standpoint. I know from being in the meetings with you guys every Friday, I hear it. You passionately want to support these supers, our customers in these projects. So I just wanted to take a second to echo your sentiments, which is if you have a question, you need something, even if we don't know the answer, we'll go find it. Anything to help accomplish the mission, which is a team mission. It's not all just on the super.
Yeah, take advantage of the resources, not only that are available from a personnel standpoint, but are also in Procore for the superintendents to be.
Those 288
to
documents
use.
can be found in Procore.
That's right.
As far as the pre-con meeting, what role do the plans or the blueprints play in I know there's a lot to a pre-con meeting, but what role do the plans play?
Everything's based off the plan. So without plans, why are we having a pre-con? And along those lines, look at the plans before you come to the pre-con, because you're going to have questions then that can be answered up front and save time, effort, and energy in the long run.
Great point.
Yeah.
Plans are the Bible. Plans are the Bible of the job. This is what we're doing. This is what's been drawn. This is what the owner expects. This is what we bid. This is what we do.
Yeah. I'm a big NFL fan. I think a lot of people here are, or football. You don't go on the field for the game before you looked at your playbook, right? You're looking at that playbook ahead of time. Yep. Everybody's better for it. So let's say you guys were on an episode of the TV show Survivor, and I believe you get to bring one survival item each to that show, if I'm not mistaken. What item would you bring, and where would blueprints rank amongst the items you would prioritize there?
I think the most important item that you'd bring to a pre-con is a legal pad and a pen to take notes.
And actually take notes.
I think that's your number one tool. Plans are going to be there, otherwise we're not going to call a pre-con.
Yeah.
So, I mean, plans are definitely needed at a pre-con, but we've got owner-operator extras. We've got little details that have been omitted from the plans that they don't want to do. And if we don't have that written down and know that, and then go ahead and do it, we're not pleasing our client. We're not doing what we're supposed to do.
Point.
We're just not doing what we're supposed to do. Notes are really, really important. And the older you get, the more important they become.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, there are certain situations, especially with these SAOs, where you're on a 1-week job and you're running from one to one to one. It's very difficult. We understand that. You're trying to do a pre-con for the next one, but you're in the middle of one right now. Sometimes it's just not physically practical or possible to get those plans marked up. But when you've been in between jobs and you have those plans ahead of time, there is zero excuse to come to a pre-con without a marked up set of plans. Those plans should definitely be marked up, highlighted, and you should be at that pre-con with a list of questions that you may have found while you were going through those plans.
Key
Great point.
list of questions. That
Yeah.
proves one thing. You've gone through those drawings.
Yes.
You've generated questions that these drawings may or may not have.
Yeah.
So
Great insight. We use licensed surveyors on our projects. When we're talking about that, how does the superintendent determine the building layout as far as, is it facing north, south, east, west? How does that unfold?
well, I mean, the superintendent needs to know where the building tie point is
Mhm.
to check the surveyor. We use licensed surveyors to protect us. That the building is in the right place, the 4 points are in the right place, the property lines are correct. There's an established benchmark, there's an established height for the slab. Once that slab's poured, that's your benchmark forevermore for that site. However, if you don't have that knowledge inside of you to be able to look at the plans and see that it's a 90 foot from the property, east property line,
Mm-hmm.
90 foot to that building tie point, at least make that note and measure that and know that it's in the right place. It's great to have a licensed surveyor out there. Guys, don't go in the trailer and start doing your 3 week look ahead or something and know or assume that guy is going to get it exactly right. You got to be able to check behind them. They're just like any other subcontractor that we use. They're a trade partner. They do the best that they can. But if you don't check behind them, chances are every now and then there's going to be a problem. And addressing that right off the bat is key. The building's facing west and it's supposed to be east, we got a problem. The building's 15 foot off that tie point,
Yeah.
we got a problem.
Yeah, catastrophic.
So
problem.
very
Potentially.
catastrophic problem. That's correct.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Surveyors, just like any other trade we have on the job site, superintendents should be out there asking questions, looking at what's going on, verifying it against the plans, and answering questions. Are we doing a 3 foot setback? Are we doing a 5 foot setback? Where is the benchmark on the job site? Is it annotated on the plans, or do we have to get one in as a field operation? These are the kinds of things you have to be physically involved with the surveyor, just like any other sub.
Yeah.
Makes
Best
sense.
practice with that is to absolutely walk around with your surveyor while it's being done. Superintendent needs to be with him. I know sometimes, so a truck comes in and you've got to unload.
Yeah.
That's a 15-minute thing that you get away from the surveyor. You can still go back. Okay, I see where you got the building tied in here. Let's pull that tape one more time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Trust but
Verify.
Yeah.
Verify.
Yeah.
A big word.
Oh yeah. When it comes to the blueprints, how important is it for a superintendent to be intimately familiar with them for a lot of reasons, including inspectors? These are people that their time's at a premium, and there's going to be instances where our superintendents are going to get challenged on some things. How important in those cases is it for the superintendent to demonstrate that they are intimately familiar with those plans?
If you've prepped for the pre-con and you've gone through the plans, you have your notes, you've marked it up, highlighted it, that's going to go a long way to resolving those concerns. You're always going to have something that an inspector will question. But if you know in the plans what page to find something on, you can help facilitate that. And it also shows the inspector that you know the plans and you've looked at them. And a lot of times some of that can go away if you demonstrate that ability up front. The inspector knows when he gets to your job site that you already have probably looked at it, because it's an indication that you know your job. I mean, it's just
Confidence and credibility,
It's Superintendent 101.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You made reference to Randall earlier about his tabs on the plans and everything. Randall, fortunately, has built in Naples quite some time. Several projects in Naples. We've had some permitting issues with that particular project. Randall has been able to go down and utilize his relationship because of his ability to be set up and knowledge of that building. He used his relationship with the chief building inspector to override the holds on the inspections we have to get inspections. As you saw yesterday on the trip, we're vertical.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be.
Mhm.
We just got the revisions back yesterday. So being knowledgeable about your plans tells that building inspector, hey, this guy's here. I'm going to spend a 5-minute deal. Boom, boom, boom. It looks good. Appreciate you drawing it. Let me see your drawings real quick. Boom. He opens it up right to where the inspection has been called for. He can sign that card off right then and there or make any notes right away. It just makes the building inspector more comfortable and your job flows so much easier.
Mhm.
Again, we're not building inspectors, we're area supervisors. We're there to back the superintendent up. But when we come, Jeff could be on 13 different jobs beside that job. I could be on another 9 jobs beside that job.
True.
Our time, I'm not going to say, listen, I'll spend forever more with a superintendent that needs it. But coming there and me having to trace down something on his drawings to get an answer, or he just has it tabbed out and he pulls it up and shows what's going on, he saved me 25 minutes of drive time. So, I mean, it's very important.
Yeah.
It's very important to know your drawings, and it shows your capabilities. It
Yeah.
does.
And to go back to Randall, that doesn't happen if there was not previous credibility and trust built from that
Correct.
relationship.
Correct.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be 5, but for the sake of the question, for each of you, what would be your top 5 tips when it comes to reading and utilizing blueprints to the superintendents? And again, it doesn't have to be 5, but what comes to mind on your top things you want to emphasize?
Highlighting the plans. That is so critical. That's the number one thing. When I go on a job site and I see the plans highlighted, it indicates to me that the superintendent knows what's going on in his job site. To me, that's one of the most important things. So that has to be right up there on number 5. I'm sure you've got.
We could go on and about this and sit there and talk about it. We've said this word probably 15 times during this interview or questioning. Verify. Verify what you've done. Verify what you've asked your trade partner to do. If you tell the trade partner that's a 4'6" wall, don't assume. He may make it a 46-inch wall and misheard you. Verify what's been done. Carry a tape measure around with you. Talk to your trade partners in the morning. Talk to your trade partners in the evening. Verify what they've done. Verify what's going to happen the next day. Tell them when you need them in. Tell them when you need them out. Again, have an ink pen and a notepad all the time. I mean, I could keep going. We mentioned some of these yesterday as we talked.
Yeah.
And I can't remember all of them.
Those are a lot of them.
So, anymore that,
the big thing is, as a superintendent, you need to be active on the job site. If you're not busy scheduling or verifying information, there is no windshield superintendent. If you're a windshield superintendent, you're not a superintendent. You need to be circulating on the job site, verifying what's going on the job site, asking questions. You don't necessarily need to know everything, but if you ask questions of the trades, you can pick up information, and then you can verify it against what the plans are showing. But the big thing is circulate on the job site, look at what's going on, and verify what you're seeing.
Yeah, and guys, we know it's hot out there, so I want to define the windshield superintendent that Jeff speaks of. What we're talking about here is sitting in the truck, waiting on guys to get work done so that 5 o'clock comes and you want to take off and go.
Yeah.
You're going to have to get in your truck sometimes when it's 96 degrees out there and it's 86 relative humidity. You're getting in there to cool off, have a little bit of a break. We provide job trailers on new jobs that have air conditioning. So go in there and take your break. At that point, you've got time that you can do some paperwork. People that sit in the truck all the time, the trade partners see that. It takes the trade partners total respect for you and throws it out the window because he feels that all you're there to do is to tell him what to do, and then he goes and sits in the truck. I understand it's hot. I understand that you get tired. But you have to stay engaged in your job. You've got to walk. You've got to verify. You have got to talk to your subs. Some of these guys, we don't know the story of what this trade partner's coming in. His daughter might be in the hospital. He might be sick or the family's sick. He comes in with, if you talk to this guy and engage with him in how we treat people
Mm-hmm.
and treat them correctly, you're going to get a lot out of your trade partner. And doing that, you'll find it's better to be out on the job talking to that trade partner and staying engaged in your job than it is sitting in the truck worrying if they're going to get it done right. And oh my goodness, I hope this all turns out good.
Yeah.
That's not where we want to be.
Yeah.
You want your day to go by fast, be engaged on the job site. And the next thing you know, the day's over.
You'll find that you don't have enough time in that day. Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Guys, how can we assess the superintendent's comfort level when it actually comes to assessing the blueprints?
I'll let you go first here.
Well, if we're going to assess, we need to ask questions. We need to make sure that our superintendents are comfortable coming to us and asking questions. And that touches on one of our job duties is training and education.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody is going to have the same level of knowledge with a set of plans. And that's where they need to be forthcoming and say, hey, can you help me understand this? And that's what we're going to do. That's why we exist, to help train and educate. So we are happy to go through and help you learn about blueprints and plans and that kind of stuff. But you have to be able to ask those questions. We know not everybody knows everything. And that's where we lean on that training and education aspect about what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think one of the biggest things to get a superintendent to open up to you about what they're comfortable with and what they're not comfortable with, what they feel very, very adamant in doing, what they feel inadamant about doing, is gaining their trust. And the way to gain their trust is to basically open up to them as to who you are, what you're there for. Like Jeff said, we're there as a supporter.
Mm-hmm.
We're not an inspector. We're not a guy, hey, you're doing this wrong. Hey, this is terrible. Hey, this is good. We're not cheerleaders, and we're not demons either. We are there to make sure that you have all the tools that you need to get the job done in the safest, most profitable, and best quality possible. That's what we're here for. Don't ever hesitate to ask us questions. Don't hesitate to say to us, I don't understand this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a flaw. Okay? I don't understand everything in life either. Okay? I ask questions when I don't understand. And the reason I ask the question is because I do want to understand. So that's what we're here for. And guys, reach out, man. Reach out. The support's there. That's why these podcasts and why these training steps are here. They're here to help all of us.
Well said.
Yeah.
Can't thank you guys enough for the insight. I know that this podcast is a little longer than we prefer, but it had so much information. I hope for the sake of our superintendents especially that they'll watch this, but I hope they'll also keep it as a resource to refer back to. Like you said, there's a lot of information and a lot of their questions could be answered. But for everybody watching, thank you for watching the latest episode of the Stancil Blueprint podcast. And until next time, take care.
See ya.